Hello and welcome to Budget in Focus. I'm Enrico Wolford, and on this program we are examining the budget in detail, looking at it by ministry, and of course we have with us the Minister of Public Security, Minister Khemraj Ramjattan.
Thank you very much, and a very good night to you, Enrico. It's a pleasure being here tonight to further expand on what the budget has for the Public Security Ministry, and of course security is a main pillar of our government, and something that we must pay specific attention to, because it is that, which is going to ensure the security of the citizens, confidence in investment, and of course, securing us from the, towards getting law and order to a better place so that we can all feel more confident living here, investing here.
Minister, you're also at the level of a vice president in this country, which means you are given a particular task to ensure that the cabinet and the entire decision-making apparatus of the government is working for the benefit of all. But yet there's criticism. There's criticism that the government isn't doing enough for this sector, isn't doing enough for that sector. Particularly with regard to the sugar industry. You're from that background. You have seen what has happened.
Yeah,
what has really happened in the country?
Well, look, I want to make it quite clear to members and viewers out there, and also to those who might be critics of me in relation to that sugar industry. At a cabinet level, we had to make certain decisions that were going to be very challenging and difficult, because at the inception of coming into the administration, we inherited a sugar industry that had $85 billion in debt. And you know why that debt occurred? It is because since 2010, when the European Union had stopped the preferential prices and the large quota markets from Guyana, it then meant that we are going to have tremendous crisis in sugar. And it was intended, when the European Union did what they did through that economic partnership agreement with the CARIFORUM countries and all of that, was that we were supposed to right-size the industry since then. Right-size means cutting those unprofitable estates and factories and ensuring that you can have an efficient sugar industry even with less factories and estates and less workers and all of that. Barrett Jagdeo never did that, nor any of the PPP administrations. And so we had a situation where it was a constant set of monies from taxpayers' treasury going into the sugar industry to bail it out. Of course, the European Union had given them a lot of money, knowing that this is intended to help the sugar industry now that they're not going to get the preferential prices, which was almost double the world market prices, 550 US dollars per ton of sugar. When we started, it's like 200 and so on. So it is important to understand that they did not do that kind of thing. Rather, they bailed it out. They bailed it out, and all the time bailing it out. Now, when we got into the administration too, because we felt that we can do better, we start bailing the thing out too. That was the honest fact about it all. And for the first 36 months into our administration, we gave Gaisuco $36 billion. In addition to the $85 billion debt that they owed, another $36 billion. Every month for the first 3 years of the APNU AFC government, we bailed it out. And a lot of people are saying that we should not continue doing this because we got nurses, we got teachers, we got soldiers, we got policemen, we got public servants to look after. And so a lot of people did not appreciate that at some point in time we had to do that. And so what we did was to do with some experts, Clive Thomas being the head of it, commission of inquiry, and this is what it was decided, that we had to bring this thing to an end, right-size the industry. Now when we right-sized the industry, we got blows left, right, and center. And we're going to take our blows, because when we got into government for a period of 5 years to make the right decisions on certain sectors. And that is why this budget of Winston Jordan is so much transformative. It will transform this country because, again, I left the parliament there. Someone was asking Noel Holder, why is it last year Gaisuco was paid $10 billion and this year it will get zero? Well, it is because we are right-sizing. We can't be taking out money and giving Gaisuco all the time. Gaisuco, like it has done through the SPU, must now go and get some capital and equity and finances from the equity and ensure that it makes some money so that it could then fund itself. And so, you know, I want to make a parallel with what I said in my speech. And that is, when Valda Lawrence made the statement that she is going to ensure that her supporters get jobs, a lot of people were very vexed. Now, it was an unfortunate statement. She has apologized. But when the PPP did not right-size sugar since 2010 and commenced giving it bailouts, wasn't that jobs for the boys? So one now is saying that she has said a wrong thing, but being hypocritical to what they were doing from 2010 and what we kind of did since 2015. So we had to bring this thing to an halt. And I believe that with that kind of money, where we are not going to bail out to the tune of $1 billion a month, we will have money for lots of other things. And that is what this is all about. Transforming the economy with better spendings, empowering the people, and of course, building sustainable communities. We have more monies now for streets, street lighting. We have more monies now for programs at educational institutions and so on, rather than just putting it into Gaisuco for a certain constituency that supports the PPP to the extent that how do we look?
But Minister, the charge could be that, look, you just followed what was happening. You really did not have a vision. You did not have an idea of where you want to go. Is that what happened?
No, that is not what happened. When we made certain promises, and we have to be honest to ourselves, we made certain promises that we could have changed this. But when you realize that the depth of madness in the sugar industry, workers stealing fertilizers and selling to rice farmers, workers in the industry stealing the spare parts that were in the offices and in the storage areas, doing a whole set of things. Workers not turning up as the Commission of Inquiry did. And a lot of people also leaving the country for greener pastures overseas, like middle management and all of that. We realized that we had to do what we did. Order the Commission of Inquiry, get the best recommendations, and right size. We had to right size. And so that was the vision that we had after going into it. You see, when we were in opposition, we knew that monies were badly spent on, let's say, the Skeldon estate. And you felt that it's going to be fixed. But the thing was irredeemable, as it were. And so although you brought in some people from South Africa and you tried to fix it, it is not being fixed. So what do? You just simply don't pour more taxpayers' money into it. You had to bring it to a halt. And when you bring it to a halt, those in the PPP and GAU and now began telling you that, look, you don't like sugar workers, you're discriminatory, you're racial, you're what and what. And that is what makes being in government so challenging. But it was because of the fact that we had to make the right decision. Look, the PPP could not have done what we did. And it would never have done that. And it would have dragged the economy. It's like you have 5 businesses. 4 are very profitable. 1 making no profits at all, big losses. What you're going to do? Let all the monies from the 4 businesses that are profitable go into that one that is non-profitable?
But I can see the screaming headlines, particularly in some parts of the press tomorrow and in the coming days. Ramjattan says sugar workers are thieves. Ramjattan blames sugar for all of his deficiencies and so on, and he's not able to run the public security system very well. Is that what you want to hear, or
I
is that
wa-
the message
I want
that
to
ought
speak
to
the
be said?
truth. No, no, no. The message ought to be said. Indeed, we know what was happening at Gaisuko after we got into there. I'm not saying that, look, 99% of those sugar workers were honest, decent people. There were many, however, and the management that in a sense allowed it to happen, that saw a lot of thievery and so on and bad management going on. And of course, when the PPP, we had to knock off one of the fellas that they were giving about 25,000 US dollars per month, Dr. Raj Singh, who knew nothing about sugar and was heading the sugar industry when we got into the administration. So please, people must understand then that the right decisions had to be made. I don't mind screaming headlines. I have come out even with my budget speech saying all these things and also giving statistics that we are doing extraordinarily good in relation to the crime statistics and all. And I even have statistics coming from the IDB, a thing called the Homicide Monitor, and the Interpol as to how homicides are probably the best here in the Caribbean, apart from Barbados, Guyana. When you compare some of these things. But the headlines still scream that Ramjattan. I think one cartoon in the Kaito News is saying that it is cow dung Ramjattan is talking about. The other one today is saying that Santa to come into the Guyana needs a gun license to come to Guyana. It doesn't matter. We have done tremendously good in relation to getting the crime situation. By the way, in a region in which violence, because of cocaine out of Colombia and Mexico and all those places, the gun violence is the highest in the world. A lot of people don't know this. Homicides rates in Latin America and the Caribbean is the highest in the world, and it competes and has beaten the deaths that happen in the Middle East, although they are at war. A lot of people don't understand that. And I have the facts here. So we live in a very violent society, region, a geopolitical space, and we are going to have it. But when you compare it, like, you know, with Guyana as against Jamaica, Jamaica had about 16,000 murders last year. Trinidad had about 500. And that is why their rates are so high. Ours, Jamaica was 56. Trinidad and Tobago was 38. Belize is 35. St. Lucia is about 34. I have them here, and they come from this thing called Homicide Monitor from the IDB. St. Vincent and Grenadines is 35. Belize is 37. Barbados is 11. And we are 15. That is 15 murders out of 100,000 of the population.
But we live here.
We live here, and
we got to be concerned about our security.
Of course,
here.
we are concerned.
So what's being done there?
Well, that is where we're going now, and that is why some more monies could have been put as a result of what was being taken for Gaisuko and all of that into the police force. We have increased our spendings in the Ministry of Public Security now by some 15% as against last year. 15% to $35.6 billion. The majority of it going towards law enforcement, which is largely the Ghana Police Force, and also the prison service to renew infrastructure. We have more than $1 billion for prisons. Because, you know, those that were burnt down at Camp Street and all of that were made of wood, primarily wood, and was about 100 years old. Infrastructure within the prison was almost like Jurassic Park. You go back to the days of the dinosaur. So it was that primitive. And so we didn't have the monies, but now we're going to have the monies, and we have started. We have started a major rehabilitation at Mazaruni after the first fire in 2016 in Camp Street. But we also are now going to build a brand new concrete prison in Berbice for $580 million. And that money has been given to us this year budget. We also going to do what is called a steel cell arrangement at Camp Street, whereby this is a very modernistic cellular modular kind of thing, whereby we're going to have about 180 cells, steel, that are totally compatible with good units whereby prisoners can stay in there and so on. And then, of course, a huge set of money going in for the continuation next year of the Mazaruni prison, which is going to take about 2 or 3 years to be built. That is a big set of infrastructural works that we have. We are now getting the money to do that. We are also talking about a proposal for a prison that might be somewhere in Kurukururu. But we have to get a road up there, and we're hearing about this road that will be from Ogle to Soesdijk. So we got to start thinking one that is going to be large enough. You see, Enrico, this is what it is. You have to have a prison that is close enough to your magistrate's court, because a lot of remand prisoners, so you can't go and put them in Mazaruni and then you have to fly them back to Georgetown and so on. You have to have prisons close to the magistrate's court.
But shouldn't you separate the remand centers from the actual prison, so to speak?
Absolutely, but you still need a prison that will have sometimes not the non-violent kind of offenders. You wouldn't want to send the non-violent offenders or short-term offenders to Mazaruni. But whatever it is, we are thinking in terms of having a prison that will house a large number of people, about 1,000 or so, within Demerara, and close down the Luziknan and the Camp Street prison. That's a proposal that we have. It will cost a lot of money, as prisons do. And I went around after the first fire, asked IDB, World Bank, IMF. Nobody gives money to prisons. You've got to get it yourself, okay? Although plenty of people talk and so on. Only the Chinese, I understand, are willing to help in that regard with a loan of some major amount. But coming back to the point, we are saying that although it is our country, our geopolitical space is one that is very violent. We have guns that are made in Brazil coming across the border. Our borders are porous. We have cocaine, people bulldozing a stretch of land to land their airplanes. We've captured at least 3 airplanes so far because of this thing. And we also are tying into that effort, the effort to surveil the big people who are doing cocaine in Guyana, in association with the Drug Enforcement Agency, Interpol, and so on. And that was what caused this guy Big Head to also be caught. And he's now in America, right? And this is what we're talking about. In Guyana, a number of businessmen came out recently and said they want the proof as to where this economy was getting its money from. Well, a big chunk of it was as a result of those big narco dealers. And people seem not to want to believe that, but we had some very, very important articles written again by Clive Thomas, the criminalized state. Nobody can deny. We don't have the evidence probably like the Americans will now have in relation to Big Ed, but we didn't have the evidence that we could bring to our courts here in Guyana as to how big this thing was. But indeed it was big. Roger Khan was extraordinarily big in it. And you got some businessmen who are saying, but bring the proof. This government is talking plenty. Well, I want to support Mr. Winston Jordan when he said that because of what we are now doing, that humongous set of money, about 187 million US dollars that would normally come into the parallel dark economy here, is no longer there. So we are going to suffer. But there is something righteous about that. And we have to carry on doing the right things, not because it will be the unpopular things. People can vex with us and they're going to say, well, the money is not there in the economy. But it is a distorted economy if you got 187 million US dollars in it because of narco trading, and it is in the economy. So I believe that's the transformation that we're making in relation to this economy as a result of what we're doing at a security level. And I'm very, very happy also, if I may state this, that the British security sector reform is also here with us. The British had asked the last government, we would like to have a $4 million loan to ensure that studies be done in relation to all these issues. Maritime issue, aviation issue, better management and human resource development, promotion, realignment of the police force. Nothing like that was done under the last administration. As soon as we came on, Mr. Granger went and told the British, please, we want back that thing. And that is what is being done now. And a lot of things is being done in relation to the set of report that was handed to Mr. Granger. Well, the reform process is, of course, going on. And we are doing a lot of things. Like, take, for example, a big one is the realignment of the police force divisions into the regional division. So instead of having division A, B, C, D, E, and to F, we are now going to have division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're going to be just like in accordance with the divisions that we
At the regional
regional
government
level.
system,
So we're going to have headquarters in Letem. We're going to have headquarters in Bartica. For Region 1, we'll have a headquarters in Mabaruma. You know, and a commander to deal with these divisions with a leadership that is going to make the decisions there rather than being Georgetown and dealing with issues down on the ground and so on. All of this will help. All of this will also mean that that commander can do the human resource that he needs within that area. So if it's Amerindians more and more that who understand the language, say, Wapishiana language, when a policeman from the coast go there, he doesn't understand what some of the people are start telling him. All of that. Now, this is the kind of reforms we want, and we are heading there. So I want to say then that, you know, a lot is being done different from what used to be. And because people only know what used to be, that is going to create a challenge. They're going to say, well, what Ramjattan doing?
But what used to be appears normal, and isn't that the problem?
No, it is not normal. Because here it is, a number of things are happening, and it will take some time. It is not as if we have had major changes and reconfiguration of the police at the leadership level. We are having reconfiguration at the divisional branches level. We are having massive set of training. Only a week ago, we had 31 persons graduated from the university that are in the police force, right? Some with MBA, some with first degrees, some with diplomas. That is major. Right now, we have sent, for the year 2018, over 2,000 people to go overseas to do courses in all various academies, short courses especially, workshops and so on. And that is enhancing their capacity. The police force now has a better ability and a capacity to catch criminals. And that is why we are doing even some of the old cases from previously, the major crimes unit especially. Of course, we are having huge problems with what we call some of the rogue elements that are really giving the police a bad name. But within the discipline services, that has been, you know, a thing that we have to now correct. We have to correct that as a result of recruitment, better recruits, and also the training process there. But still, even when you have people that are trained, Enrico, they can very well go because it's a personal choice. Like the fellas in the Fly Jamaica airplane. We sent 4 of them for training in Virginia. These are middle career firemen. And they still went and do wrong things. Take away people's tablet and take away their phone and thief things. I mean, there's some new laws that we have from certain individuals. But these are things that we have to work on. And we have a complaints authority. We want lots of the complaints. Every single complaint now must be investigated. Once it is written and a signature is put to it and the circumstances given, we will deal with it. Either the OPR or the complaints authority. And so this is the new thing. Look, when I came into the thing there, the policemen were seen as to have a very low reputation in the sense of how the people feel about them. There was a LAPOP poll, Latin America poll done about who are some of the most hated people. They got politicians and then they got policemen, okay? And we know, I spoke to Sylvia.
In case where you're responsible for both.
I fall into both categories. It's a bad thing. But the trouble is, we want to now use that as something to move on and try to better it. Because we have to understand from where we came. And if we do not be frank and say, hey, we got problems, we're not going to move forward.
But Minister Ramjattan, just before this program came on the air, on NCN, there was a news story with regard to a guy who apparently got out of jail for some reason or the other. And the allegation is he murdered his spouse. And we're hearing so many stories of domestic violence and men who seem to be out of control. That needs training too. Both by the police
well, that is also a big part, and a large section of the monies that are coming our way, especially through the Citizen Security Strengthening Program, has to do with social projects. Look, that kind of activity where the man is going to come home and then slit his wife's throat and then slit his and so on and commit double murders and so on. It is something that I don't think a police force is the best equipped to handle. It has to be from a societal perspective. We have to do lots more training at the other levels, at school level, at dysfunctional family. We have to be a little more clinical with at-risk youth. We have to do so many other things. We have to beg the mulvis and the pandits and the, so on, the religious people to get into the act. We have to have counselors, more and more counselors. We have to put up hotlines. As a matter of fact, one of the big things for 2019 is a major survey in Guyana in relation to domestic violence. Why is it caused here in Guyana? Now, there are surveys all across the world. There are some general patterns, but more peculiarities to Guyana, why it is happening here in such very high levels. A lot of the murders are not robbery-type murders. We have the domestic violence murder. Fella drinking liquor, go home, his wife asks him a couple of questions, and then he beats her, sometimes to death. And this is the kind of thing. Then he goes and commits suicide. A suicide that follows from a domestic violence kind of sin. So we have to, as a matter of fact, do all of these things. And we are training a lot of at-risk youth. Over 1,200 will be trained, and we have gotten 20 communities, Angois Avenue, Sophia, Port Morant, Kanji, Adelphi, a number of places, Linden and Wismar and so on, where we have identified certain kids through community officers who might be at risk because of the way they live their lives and so on. And that is important. And so we do have, what has to happen here is ensuring that the larger society play its role too, not banking too much on the policemen. Policemen will be largely law enforcement. But you know, Enrico, more and more as I think about it, this thing needs a global perspective to it. Those people who play the loud music also help in bringing about this aggressiveness in society. They seem not to want to live with the law and order. Those who want to drink, you know, excessively. And I've tried a couple of things that were there in the law. Take, for example, the 2 a.m. curfew and so on. And the other thing about the decibel readings, it should be within, if it is an area that is industrial or residential, certain regulations are there, guidelines. Nobody listens. You got to, sometimes you come out to the studio, you go up on the road, it's a whole set of noise cars are making. And when you start clamping down on them, they said, well, you know, Mr. Ramjattan does not like entertainment.
And
well,
does not like youth as a result.
And does not like youth as a result. But look, if we want to have a disciplined society, if we want law and order, we have to clamp down on all of these. But it is going to take some time because it has to be promoted, it has to be sold, and it has to have officers who are going to willingly do it in a very courteous way. Sometimes when the officers go and do it in a very rough way too, and some of them do it roguishly by asking for bribes to stop the thing and so on, we are going to get trouble.
Doesn't it also need consultation? Doesn't it also need that
I don't know if when the law is that you must close your bar at 2 o'clock, we now got to go and consult the bar owners about that. That's already the law.
But isn't that why you are lawmakers in
that
the
is true, but I believe that there, at this stage, 2 o'clock is a convenient time. When you're going to check, and I got my research department to do a study, 2 o'clock is about the time in all Caribbean countries, New York and London and Paris.
I think New York is closer to 4 o'clock.
Well, I know it is about 2 o'clock. It's about 2 o'clock. If you have an enclosed place and you got special licenses, well, probably. But, and look, as soon as you come out of those places, even if it's 2:30 or 3 o'clock, the police is there on you. You know, we don't have that kind of resources. But the police are going to catch you. They're going to do the breathalyzer and so on. But we Guyanese, you know, when we go to New York, we catch home before 2 o'clock in the morning. When we go to New York, we ensure that we abide by all the laws. We don't go in New York City and play all the music loud, loud, loud. Or go and then, you know, affect other people like what happened with the Marriott there recently, that an injunction had to be filed against certain people and so on.
But again, Guyanese say, we live here.
Yeah.
This is our place, and let us enjoy it. Ramjattan is just throwing cold water on the whole thing.
That is not
That's
true.
what they say.
We Guyanese can enjoy a number of ways that are not going to be harmful to other people. Guyanese must learn to realize we have a fundamental freedom in Guyana to enjoy ourselves without harming others. But Guyanese believe that the liberty extends, that it's unlimited freedom. They can play their music. A lot of old people have called me, Mr. Ramjattan, hear this thing out to the window, 3 o'clock in the morning. What do? You have to come to the assistance of those, especially when you have the law on your side.
But Minister Ramjattan, isn't it a case of education and information and so on? I live near a senior citizen home because I hope I could just walk across when I get a lot older. But at the same time, one evening, some guys in the street decided, they were going to play music until 3 o'clock in the morning. So one wonders if they have no consideration for the seniors. And isn't that an education problem rather than a public security problem?
Oh, no, it is certainly a combination of both, because it's public security, because there's somebody breaking and violating the laws in relation to noise nuisance and the criminal code in relation to noise. But also, the people who are doing it obviously are ill-educated and do not seem to understand what it is that they must do within limitations. So it is a combination of both, and that is what we are doing in this budget here. We have started it out a long time ago, whereby it is the combination of the efforts of social projects. And we have quite a number of social projects. We believe that our young people, Enrico, have to have greener spaces, social spaces, community centers, more libraries we got to put up. We have to get back, instead of Christmas time, you're buying all kind of things for them, buying some books for them, things like that. And reorganize our society in such a way that people will appreciate that although I must enjoy myself, I must not do so to the detriment of others. And that is what my message here is all about. As public security, you cannot go cribbing and confining the rights of people. But you have to ensure that the people too understand that they must live in a society where their action must not affect like yourself and the old people around that senior home. We have to do it. That means a better education. That means more counseling at social levels. So when they go to church, the pastor, the pundit will tell them, please, this is what this community is doing. The community elders must also talk about that. And we have a huge set of programs to talk to people in those areas, what we call somewhat depressed areas, whereby we are going to send community officers to do that kind of developmental work, do that kind of social work. And social protection also is going to help me with that, along with education and social cohesion. So at the end of the day, it will be a combined effort that is going to see a better day for Guyana.
But Minister, if you were to name one or two things that we can say that your ministry has been successful at over the last 3 years, what would you be talking about coming out of the kind of budgetary allocations that you've got over the years?
A superior quality of policemen because of the training that they've gotten. Police now today understand police investigative work far better. And I believe that the major crimes units, the CID department in every police station is far better than 2015 when we first took over. It is a massive set of training. At the leadership level too, mid and upper leadership level, we have also enhanced that through the various training that has happened. As I said, thousands of policemen. We have also allowed policemen to go do the University of Ghana MBA program and some places, although I think it's a School of the Nations that had some program, MBA level. More of them, about 15 of them are now, for this year, graduates with bachelors of Arts degree or Bachelor of Science degree, especially in public administration and in social work. That is very important for us. So once you start getting that quality upgraded, you are going to have a better police force. The other thing is our infrastructure. We have done 12 police stations. Look, if you get very degraded infrastructure, you are going to be a degraded person, basically. And we have built a number of police stations, some of them brand new, and some of them rehabilitated to the extent that they've gotten brand new. I got the names of these police stations, and it is very important that a number of these be told to the public. The IT headquarters at Ivleri, Brick Dam, we're going to expand our infrastructural works to a number of other police stations. Let me just name the one. At Cane Grove, LaGrange, Maibikuri, Port Kaituma, Mabaruma, Suddy, Kokwani, Isano, Aishalton, Anai, Aurora, and Mackenzie police station.
And all those stations are in areas where radio and television is reaching. So they're hearing you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they expect you to do what you're doing.
Absolutely. And then we have an additional 6 that will be done in 2019. Madhya, Barometer, Albion, Wim, Wisma, and Parika. But there were some that were visited by
This is in 2019?
In 2019. The additional 6. And we're going to do some more for 2020 because we can't go and do everything one time. But we are going to be spending over $255 million too for purposes of enhancing some of the other interior locations. Because women police don't go there because there are no facilities for women police. And the domestic violence and sometimes the rape cases and all of that. You need some women police ranks and officers there. We are now going to do that. We are also going to enhance the police stations too, to the extent of having digitized processes at these police stations. Whereby when a report is made at one police station, almost all the other police stations will know of that report immediately, whosoever is the suspect, looking for him and things like that. We want to enhance, and we have done that, and it is through the efforts of our international partners, like China gave us a lot of buses and vehicles and motorbikes and all of that. We are going to get further assets in this regard. We are also going to, this 2019, have a major infrastructural work being done where a command center will be set up. I've been talking about this for the last 2 years, but we have now gotten the monies, and the command center is going to be done by some Chinese loan. I think it's the Huawei people. And we have gotten the monies for that now. So there will be 400 cameras in and around Georgetown. So take, for example, where Stabrook is. They're saying a lot of thievery is going on there. We're going to put up about 5 or 6 cameras in that area that literally could do a 360-degree vision. And it is going to go straight into the command center, something like bigger than your studio here. And on the walls, we'll have civilian people watching, finding out. And if they see a robbery, then of course they give a call in, something like what is happening in London. You know, and immediately you could go and tell your drivers, the policemen on the streets, patrolmen, and that will also be increased because of this expansion. Please look at that square there, Stabrook Market Square. Another crime has been.
But don't we have some cameras now? And
we do have some cameras,
being done
but
there?
they are not that wide-bodied to catch so many things. They catch necessarily the cars that are passing and so on. They're beating the red lights and so on. It is primarily there for more or less for security, but largely traffic offenses. Whereas these now, they can zero in, and the fancy nature of it is that the controller can then move it around, following the thieves, as it were. This is what we're talking about. It is going to cost a massive set of money, but we don't mind because we have gotten the loan, and in a command center, we will be there watching what's happening.
Being done with in terms of intelligence gathering too, an intelligence-driven police force, along with ICT applications?
Intelligence-driven is going to be also helped when we have the resources to pay some of the informants. Just like how we catch some of the fellas that broke out of that prison. We managed to catch some of them because the informants were paid some monies and we have gotten a set of monies for that here in this budget. You know, I've been asking for that because people want monies to tell, I can tell you where that fella is and so on. Apart from that, the training that we have given the police, especially the upper officers, the upper leadership officers, is heavily into intelligence, how to notice at-risk developments and so on, and also how to store the data, and how, and we are doing this with CARICOM, carry secure, meaning how we can have evidence-based intelligence in the sense of, look, based on the history, this is where we know crimes will occur, and so on, and mapping it out so that we can have evidence-based policies as a result of where we know the crime will happen. That is being done. That is a $4 million loan. We are going to be getting a big portion of that through the Carry Secure program this year. As a matter of fact, it has started, this year, and it will continue next year. That is a big program. It will mean now that we will have, I went to Arizona along with Mr. Ramnarain to check out the system. And it's just fantastic. These people have all the data pooled up. And they have the data in relation to suspects, at-risk people, this, that. And the minute you see them on the television cameras, you can zip in immediately as to where the fellow is and all of that. So that's the kind of intelligence we're talking about. Intelligence also to do sting operations, just like how they catch, I think, that fellow that is now in America, the fellow that owned Tower Hotel and so on. It's surveilling. It is a tedious process. Policing is not just going and catching the criminal. You have to be with them, surveilling them, and so on.
You know, you mentioned the drugs aspect of criminality, and one of the challenges we have is that persons who may have served time for drugs and other crimes, they return to our environment and our milieu. Ramjattan, for example, is coming.
Yeah, I
home
understand
next
you'll be
year.
back next year.
And one would expect that the public security ministry would have plans in place to deal with if that particular person is not rehabilitated and decides to be recidivist.
Well, that is always going to be a difficulty, Enrico, because he hasn't committed a crime in Guyana. He's a citizen of Guyana. When he comes back, he's literally a free person. Unless
well, not in this case.
Well, but whatever it is, the deportees you're talking about, they commit their crimes in America. America then ships them down here. We have a kind of a system whereby in the first couple of weeks they're asked to check into the police station. But after a while, your resources are not that great that you will be constantly checking on them and surveilling them. You can't do that. Even with Guyanese criminals, when they're released from the prison, having served their year, 2 years, whatever. When they come out, you're hoping that your programs in the prison would have made them rehabilitated. And that is what, at the prison level, we have gotten a couple $100 million for restorative justice, whereby not only restorative justice, but rehabilitation programs within the prison system. That is going to help people do a trade inside of the prison, do interpersonal violence sessions, do what you call the topic is how to control anger management, and things like that. And we are doing that presently in the prisons of Guyana. And we are also giving remission points to some people. That is why the parole board, under the auspices of Justice Oslin Small now, have been increasingly more carrying them out of through parole, sending them home rather. Because look, and the recidivist rate that we have seen in Guyana is very small. But you know what? The press, whenever there is one fellow who was charged and he's convicted and he goes and he does it again, the press blows that up. As I have said very many times, it's only when it bleeds, it leads in our press. But the good story of the fellow who becomes so kind-hearted again after having gone through that period of imprisonment and not doing any crime again or offending, we don't hear those stories.
Well, bad news is good news. You're not going to change that.
But we have to have a responsible press that is going to say, well, this is our country. Why not give a number of stories on that? Why not? At least if it is if there is somebody that came out of parole and is now doing a job because we train him to be a carpenter at Mazaruni, do a story and let him also talk about it. But nobody going to do that. Once it's gory, it leads. Once it's bleeds, it leads. And that is what we are happening. And that calls a lot of attention to the gory type of story, and it can probably psychologically affect other people who then go and commit crimes.
Well, we could debate the feel-good stories as against the bad news stories for a while, but at the same time, we have to look at the structure of the society in terms of drugs. Are we dealing enough with the surveillance of drugs coming in? Who is doing it? So that the younger generation do not get caught up in doing what has been done before. And this bothers me. You know, you still have people who think that they could put pellets in their stomach and get away with it.
It is true that is always going to be a difficulty because the profit in that thing is big, huge. And that is why they could risk even their own bodies and their body cavities to put it in and go overseas. But because of what we are calling increased surveillance, not only from the Guyana Police Force or the CANU, but also from the international people that we have here, the Drug Enforcement Agency, which came and set up offices here in 2015. Remember that? We told, please come, we need your services. We were not like the previous administration that were hesitating. Come. We want the British security sector reform to talk what we must do. They've come. So we are having that. Interpol is into Guyana more often now than since the last 10 years of the previous administration. Interpol. Only 2 weeks ago, a number of them came and they're talking about trafficking in persons. Trafficking in persons is getting to be more prevalent in Guyana because trafficking in persons is associated with cocaine. It is associated with trafficking in guns. And it is easy because the guns come from Brazil. A whole set of, Brazil is a manufacturer. I think other countries in Latin America are manufacturers too. So we have that problem. But you're right. We have to take the profit out of the crime now. Not only jail them, but take the profit out of them. So if they feel that now they're going to go and 20 years after they're going to own hotels and they're going to own all these big things and become the big boys in the society, no. We have to go for forfeiture proceedings. We have to go for the Proceeds of Crime Act and so on and take it away. So at the end of the day, it is not going to be the thing that the young people are going to see them as exemplars wearing all the fancy boots and this and that and the shirt, driving the Mercedes and the Porsches and so on. And that is how we got to do it. But of course, too, Enrico, it is the responsibility of the press also to help in this regard. It is also the responsibility of social agents. Like as I said, non-governmental participants, the mandirs, the churches, the school teachers, everybody. Never a society has managed to rid itself of high levels of crime unless there is this combined effort, interministerial effort too, at our governmental level. But we have to get the press involved.
Minister, we've got about 3 minutes more left of this program, and we mentioned the fire service in the unfortunate incident with Fly Jamaica and what have you. But what's being done to decentralize the fire service? You spoke about the police service and the various regions. You spoke about the prison service and where they're going. You know, you spoke about Kanu, but the fire service, you're in Eccles and you have to call a fireman from central Georgetown.
I agree with you there. We have to have more resources to open stations in almost all the areas of Guyana where there are large housing schemes or large population. And we also have to have the additional ancillary structures of the what you call it, the where the water will come from. If it's a hydrant and all that. We have not had that resource to do all the areas like that.
Is anything in the budget to do that?
There is a set of money in relation to getting some water boats because we feel that the wharves are going to be more plentiful now because of the oil and gas. We had some money there for also the the airport. We have 3 other buildings that will be going up in West Coast, Bobis, and I think Linden, and one in Essequibo, that is going to help decentralize this. But of course, it's lots more monies. And what we got to do is to, as I've been telling Mr. Gentle, we have to not only internationally imitate, we have to locally invent. So when you go into the narrow estate streets, you can't go there with a fire engine. So if we have to get, let's say, a long base kind of Range Rover, not Range Rover, what do you call them? The 4x4. And you have to put some pumps in there so that they could go in and the trenches or make certain things that are inventive or innovative so that we can put them, because there are some houses in estate areas that burn down that the fire engine can't reach because of the narrow nature of the streets. And the bucket brigade can't work. So we have to come
You could
up
also widen the streets.
We could widen the street, but I don't think there is land space to widen the street because you're going to take over the people trench. And then when rain falls, there is no trench. This is a difficult society to live in, you know. This is a difficult society to govern. It is not easy. The minute you do one thing, there is another challenge in relation to that coming up. So it is important. But look, we have gotten the largest set of money for security. I intend to efficiently have those spent and ensure also that the personnel within the units that come under the Ministry of Public Security are going to get that training that is going to make them better people. I know that we are all individuals and we can go wrong, be tempted by what we see and so on, like happened recently. But please, we are asking. I have been constantly asking the leaders of all these units to talk to their people. I myself have gone down and talked to them because we cannot have a Guyana unless we have a better Guyanese.
Thank you very much, Vice President and Minister of Public Security, Khemraj Ramjattan, for appearing on the program
Thank you
this
very much.
evening. We have been on Budget in Focus, and we've been talking with Minister of Public Security, Khemraj Ramjattan. And we hope you will join us for the other programs on Budget in Focus on NCA. Have a pleasant rest of the evening. I'm Enrico Wilford. Goodbye for now.